First things first was to unpack everything, to make sure all I needed was there. And it was, except the optical drive was added. I didn't order it, but it ended up being quite useful, because I didn't actually have a way to connect to the internet without installing the initial drivers. Okay, here I clear my desk to make way to display all my parts and then to build my computer. That's my motherboard, my graphics card, my power supply, my liquid cooling unit, my RAM, my operating system, and my SSD, and of course the baby, the i7 CPU, the brains behind the operation. Oh, and there's my case in the box. To remove the case out of the box, you have to cut the bottom of the box open to get it out. So the first actual step toward building is to put the CPU into the motherboard. To me, the most stressful step, seeing as if you bend a pin just slightly, you could ruin probably one of the most expensive items of the build. But everything went smoothly and it's all good. Next was installing the RAM, and as you can see here I installed it wrong, putting one in the grey, one in the black, but the reason for that was actually the room was quite dark. Well, the room was darker than I thought, but the color correction of the camera fixed it so I didn't notice straight away. Okay, now it's installing the motherboard into the case, starting with the I/O shield, and then installing the motherboard itself. A few more screws and there we go, all done. The next step was the power supply. A bit of a premature step, but at the time I thought it would work well. But I put it in to sort of get it, to try formulate how I'm going to put the rest of the PC together. So it wasn't too bad of a step. Next was the liquid cooling unit. To get it in, I actually had to remove the front and top panel, which I didn't record myself doing because it was quite an annoying step to try and figure out. I don't want to break the pins that held it in place. Well, first here's the baby itself. Doesn't that look awesome? You can see I'd already taken off the two panels I still needed to do. And there I removed the case fan just a bit so I can get the actual unit in a bit, have a bit more of a better fit. Once that was in, I still need to add the fans as I'm doing here, but the annoying thing with this was the actual motherboard itself had really large components, making the screws a bit harder to screw into, but it's still able to achieve a tight enough fit. And finally the actual head of the liquid cooling unit onto the CPU. Next is the graphics card. Here you see I messed up twice, but one time, two times, and now I only get it. I wasn't accounting for the extra width of the larger graphics cards. Okay, here remove the power supply again, plugging the cables this time, thinking I'll do it this order, and then from there plug the cables there into the corresponding units. But in the meantime, I just went straight to the hard drives to put everything in and to get ready to put the cables all together. Now for the second hard drive, same thing. Okay, I was the idiot. I didn't realize that this was included. It was right just under something in the box, I never noticed. But now I can do the front header panel much easier. So unplug everything. There we go. And do this the right way. After a lot of fiddling around, I eventually get this. And you can see, if you see how hard it was for me there, imagine how hard it would have been without the little device. So I'm glad I found it again if I ever need to take it apart. But now it's time for the SSD. And the annoying thing with this was that little case that it the tray that it goes onto actually has a special way of clipping in, so I move around while it's in the display section of the case, because that's where the window goes. So you can see I have a bit of trouble eventually. I get it, but you have to like slide it in a certain way. But there we go, all fit and ready to roll. Finally installing the graphics card again. I had to take it out for the front header panel, and now just a bit of cable management. Okay, it is now time to plug all the cables into the power supply, turn it on, and see what we get. So having the cables this way already plugged into the components, and then plugging into the power supply, worked for the most part, except one of them, I can't remember which item, was slightly too short, so I had to actually push the power supply in, then plug it in, because it would only just reach once the power supply was all in. But now it's time for the power, and let's see what turns on. And to my absolute surprise, the first time I put power through, it worked. I was so happy with that, because of the previous PC I built that didn't happen. I simply didn't plug the motherboard power in correctly.
Final bit of cable management, just to ensure that everything is tied up correctly.
But now all the panels are back on, all the cables fit just, and now the PC is finished. There for the final reveal. My PC is built.